as an archaeologist, Cleve Abbey was a great site. Well, it's sort of a classic site of English heritage management, and to be honest, I think that Cleve Abbey sort of the English heritage have to produce one sort of phase of the site. Although you've got sort of the abbey as the most important phase of the site, they've also got the farmhouse and the farmland and the other bits, and maybe even bits before the abbey.
I truly appreciate the fact that they were restoring the 13th century tile floor. I thought that was truly impressive that they had that in the back.
The way I see it at the moment is Clicket is actually accessible to the public, especially in the way that it was meant to be, and with regards to the fact that it being a lost village, well, lost obviously in quotation marks, I wouldn't say it was actually lost at all. It's along a well signposted footpath, a well signposted track. I don't believe it should have car access. And as for signs, there's a reason it's being lost, and there is a whole story behind it. And if you actually understand the story of why it is lost, then you understand that it's almost part of its significance that it is lost, as opposed to being unlost. I wouldn't say found, but unlost.
No, I don't think it should be. As we found out when we were sort of wandering about the site and trying to answer questions about the site, in fact, it's more the actual process of trying to find out about Clicket and the fact that no one knows about it that makes it so much more interesting. And if it was just signposted, it would become another English heritage site that is quite boring.
Could it be they just failed the first?
Maybe, or they just dug another one.
Yeah.
If they've emptied one.
Yeah.
What? In which way are you saying?
Well, we've got two there, right? We had that little shallow
yeah,
one
little
and
one,
the much
bigger
deeper one there. Could that have been either a failed one or...
Yeah, I reckon so. Maybe they missed the iron. Okay, that way, yonder. I think that the most interesting aspect of the landscape is its current and potential future management, because although we think of landscapes as everything that's happened in the past, all the different layers, in actual fact, what we need to be thinking about is why those layers are important and how we actually use those layers to manage it in the future. The landscape archaeology side of things is incredibly important when you're considering, a wider area, the connection between sites, not just the one site. And it's the connection between sites that can give you a lot more detail and more context. Although, because when you have a site, when you find an artifact, you have to look at the things around it to understand the context of that artifact. In the same way that if you look at the site, you have to look at the context behind the site to understand that site.
As an international student, where I'm from originally, we don't really have anything dating back that far. So I found it really impressive to see that something that old is in such good condition in comparison to something like in Florida we have the oldest school, and it basically kind of looks like crap, but it wasn't very maintained. It was super small to begin with, and the fact that the structures here are just actually really beautiful in comparison.
There should be a lot more work going into understanding the house, whether that requires funding or whether that should warrant the amount of funding that they're asking for, especially the 1.2 million is a little bit over the top. The house doesn't need to be bought. What needs to happen is it needs to be understood and explored by people who actually know what they're doing before making and jumping to any conclusions about what the house was and the role it played in Bideford and in the so-called founding of the Americas.